Welcome back to the WGL EU. We aren't getting ourselves ready for Game 2. However, if you missed Game 1, it did eventually go in the favour of Tornado Rocks. And in quite some style, it went down to the final deciding map, and they just about closed it out. But Game 2, we need to start talking about this, as it is going to be a good one. We do have ASAP up against PENTA. Now, both teams having a little bit of difference in performance recently.
ASAP, yeah, they started slow. They really bad actually at the beginning, but they seem to have got themselves into the season, and despite the fact of being right at the bottom of that table, they've done well. I mean, they almost took up that match against Rocks. Just a very bad Ruinberg defensive strategy cost them that game. They could have won that one. And PENTA, they did win the first one against Utopia, but then again, it's been back and forth. It's not against Utopia. They just one round, one game, lost two, and I think for PENTA, they are a team that can really struggle when they start to lose those rounds which they knew they should have won.
I agree. They don't quite have that fortitude yet that can really kind of pull them back into the game and say, all right, guys, let's focus up now. We let it slip. They don't quite have that just yet, but hopefully they can find some sort of comfort here. But this is a chance again for you guys at home to talk to us here in the studio with your thoughts on this matchup. Same as ever, hashtag WGLEU. I can't say it enough. I love saying it. It's pretty much my job these days. Do make sure you actually tell us your thoughts on this matchup. Do you think that PENTA's kind of struggling a little bit on their results? I've got to say, I don't think they look like the PENTA of last season. I'd hate to say, certain players make a big difference. Daki did pretty well back in the day.
I don't know,
I don't think I can chalk it all up to Daki's absence, but regardless, they are starting to struggle a little. They don't quite have that edge at the moment. They don't quite have that. It looked like drive they had last season when they wanted to be the newcomers. They wanted to be the guys to do well against the bigger teams, but I don't see that this season. Yeah,
they beat String, but then they lost against Supreme, which is like fair enough.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. Like, you can lose against Supreme and not have a chip on your shoulder. And then they lost against Utopia in that previous match, they 5-2, and then you're like, wait a minute, okay, they should have won that round. They should have won that match. Considering, Utopia just come into the season. Yes, they were in Season 5. They went through a lot of roster changes. I think PENTA just have more of that core left. So I'm super surprised that PENTA have been struggling this season. I thought they would do better. And then ASAP, on the other hand, we already mentioned, been getting better and better and better. Tornado did well. Also against Kazan, they seem to put a lot of pressure on them in that match. So this could be a very close one. In my opinion, as I said, it depends if PENTA have stepped up and if ASAP continue to get that 10-15% better each match.
Well, you already mentioned some of the performances on Ruinberg, which will be our first map, if I'm not mistaken. So if we see PENTA slip here, it can be a downward spiral. And ASAP have also had issues. Who do you think's got the stronger play on Ruinberg thus far?
Well, we've only seen PENTA play once on Ruinberg against Strink in that first matchup. They actually went 3-1. Much better on the attack, surprisingly. I think ASAP's had a chance to look at Ruinberg and see what other teams have done. So I think PENTA's now going to struggle a little bit more on the attack, which could change up the result entirely. And we saw Tornado Rocks do very well against First Pro on Ruinberg. Then we saw them go 2-2 with some shaky strategies against Synergy. So Ruinberg, in my opinion, very likely to go 2-all. Unless there's some big mistakes made. Yeah, and then following that will be Himmelsdorf. So exactly the same map pool until a decider, which would be again Himmelsdorf if required. So we're kind of seeing the trend of the teams at the moment. I think they've given us some good results, and we're still seeing a lot of personality so far. But if you could say there's a standout player or someone who you can really highlight so far from these two teams, who stands out to you? Well, Messig did very well against Utopia. They got kind of trounced by Utopia. There was some close rounds, but altogether, I think Utopia just better team. But Messig was still the highest damage leader for them, and very good. I mean, the guy has had a lot of shaky teams, free fall, Druidian Leprechauns last season. And a lot, you see him make quite a few mistakes, but now he's in that role where he doesn't really have to lead. He's actually pretty solid. He's a great MX-3090 player, can play that T54 very, very well indeed. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can continue, to improve, and maybe, another stand-up performance will cement himself as a top player, not just in PENTA, but also in the WGLU. And then Valilea for ASAP. I think he's a very good heavy tank player. I like the way he plays around his team, and he can still get that damage. He's like a solid player, but also a team player. Yeah, I completely agree with you about Message. I was so glad to see him kind of shake off the shackles, let's say, of the all-finish lineups, kind of embrace a little bit of a mixture. I expected a little bit of a lull to begin with.
And I kind of thought he might struggle without that kind of language, being so smooth. But it seems he's kind of overcome that, playing maybe a role that doesn't need as much communication as previous. And he's really found his footing. Guys at home, this is your thoughts as well, of course. Is it, the same opinion as us? Do you agree the message has really found his place here? Or are you still waiting to see if he can maybe take on the bigger teams? ASAP should be a walk in the park. If you looked at it on paper, it should be a game for Penta from start to finish. But still, I think there's room for error here, and I want to see Penta really pick it up. And what do you think the difference is between Penta of last season and this season?
Well, obviously a lot of lineup changes. I mean, we got, as you mentioned, the Killzone going over towards the North American server. Yep. We've got a Raven in there now as well. Message coming in from Julian Leprechauns. Big changes, and they still got the core lineup there. But for instance, the Dead Zone's been great this season. But at the end of the day, with so many changes, you almost reset where you were last season. Even if you make 2 or 3 changes, even 2 changes in the lineup from your core lineup last season is almost like a new team. It's almost like a new team. You got a guy who suddenly you're not so used to playing the T54, a guy you're not so used to playing the IS3 in that position, and that can change the way your whole team dynamic comes together.
Well, we're going to see how the dynamic stands up against ASAP. We are live into this one, and it will be Ruinberg. And on the attack is ASAP. And it looks like they're coming out swinging, heading towards the north. Up on the defense is going to be Penta, and they better be ready for this.
Well, this is exactly the same lineup they used ASAP against Kazna crew. And in my opinion, it worked out pretty well on the attacking side, pushing them straight down the middle. But Penta Sports really has a good idea, but we've got a massive engagement going up north, as looks like ASAP are messing around.
Yeah, ASAP are going straight for this. The LTTBs are in trouble. Fluky is drastically outnumbered, almost being ignored as they want to get that control in towards the northeast. They do not want to let time slip aside. The T-54 of Val will get a lot of damage towards him, but he's still alive, and Fluky does get picked up. And what do we make of this massive commitment towards that northeast? It
all depends if ASAP can keep control, because the problem is if you go too aggressive up there, you actually get supported by those tanks in the eastern village. That's for Penta, but they've done very well so far.
Yeah, and they're not doing the mistakes that we saw in the previous matchup. They are going for this. Killer Pit is down to a one-shot almost here in the I3, and there we go. Agorni is going to sign, seal, and deliver that one as Raven trying to back up in the LTTB, but he's not going to have a chance for it because Agorni is on point today. And when that guy's hitting shots, he is dangerous, but the I3s are being worked down. Where is this battle going? It looks like Penta's trailing a touch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 3-0 exchange. ASAP, even if they've lost quite a bit of hit points in that engagement, have come away laughing, and these 2 IS3s are still alive despite the overmatch. And you got ASAP capping. They're not rushing into this. They're making sure that they can actually, have another dimension of pressure, and it's going to be so tricky for Penta now to reset.
I don't know if they can. There's 1 second left on this cap, and I don't see anyone in a position to do so. Raging Potato tries to get back there, but from the northeastern side, New Molcho doing what he does best, the hero play, but it's all for nothing, as Insane can just back up, leave the covering fire to come in from his teammates, and now we should be seeing a nice, clean, easy pickup for ASAP, who just ingeniously worked this out, and kill for kill, they're doing this one, and the Dead Zone can do nothing about it. No reset coming in this time, and ASAP picking up round 1.
Unbelievable stuff. I mean, for sure, we've seen Penta struggle with that Northern Cap before against Drink. That's the one round they lost there. But then still, I mean, come on. It seemed a bit too obvious, but I thought it was really brave from ASAP. Committing 2 I3s on their own into the middle, getting them into a position where they can actually side scrape. Penta got kind of sidelined with that move. And then the commitment for the AMX-39s up north, just taking those 3 tanks down, was absolutely fantastic. I think Dawn and Cephas should have taken a lot more damage there, but still, Fluky against Valalier, Agorni, Vale, Panasirian, and Insane. That's 5 versus 3. And then Killer Pit, look at that. Fantastic work, fantastic angles by those IS3s to actually get that shell.
I loved it. I absolutely loved watching this, and Penta just seemed completely unaware of how to respond. How do we deal with this? These IS3s were so pivotal. Look how much damage they're getting across, allowing the rest of ASAP to get control of that northeastern side, to get themselves in the village. And sure, there was damage coming back in, but it was little to none by what they gained.
Yeah, for sure. And, you got to consider this as well. Because Penta had a lot of tanks in the eastern village, what ASAP could do is get control of that kind of northern village area, and they could counter anything which could push forwards from the eastern village to try to take down those 2 IS3s in the F line. So great read there. nice working of each angle from the map, you know, having that road in the north, having the road in the middle, and ignoring, of course, the southern one. So I love that move from ASAP. It's a little ingenious, a little different, and it really showed Penta some weaknesses in their strategy.
And I almost want to say it's not cheesy enough that they couldn't do it again. It was just a well-rounded tactic, a little bit singularly focused. It did have one goal in mind.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that can be instantly anti-stratted. Sure, the IS-3 stayed alive a little too long, let's say. They were not necessarily lucky, but they really did withstand quite some time. But very impressed by that, absolutely, and astonished from what ASAP brought out. You were saying this at the start. The team's got a little bit of fire with them. They're starting to really challenge, and we've just seen it again there. I'm thoroughly impressed. If they can keep that up, that's a wonderful start. How many teams have struggled on the attacking side so far is just insurmountable.
Yeah, it's another strategy, another tactic from ASAP, and I think Penta now 1-0 down on the defensive side. Hopefully it motivates them to, first of all, win this next round and then go on to the attack and try something new and different like ASAP just did. You know, obviously the Russians do similar strategy on Ruinberg, but I don't know. I think ASAP are looking good, and it looks like in this first round at least that they continued their run of decent results. Well, losing, but still decent rounds. Yep. And have come into this match with all guns blazing. Now, I think Penta need to go for those individual games because ASAP do struggle in that department. They've got a little bit of inexperience there.
I agree.
And I think Penta don't have that. I mean, you got to consider New Multi-Show. He's been around since day one. I think he might have installed World of Tanks when he was like 12 or 13 years old.
And he is such a great player. How many issues did he have in teams before, though, with his synergy with the other players? But he seemed to be adapting well. We thought him and Message as a combo, very powerful. But it didn't seem to slow down the opposition. ASAP didn't care who they were up against. They just, you know, blew them aside. So once again, at home, hashtag WGLEU. Your thoughts on how the hell that just went down? Because ASAP are coming out and showing you exactly what they're made of. But can they do it again? 2 goes on the attacking side. They've picked up 1. But surely Penta have a plan for the second. Surely they'll be more aware. You've got to hope so at least. And is there any direct counter strategy they could bring out here? What are we seeing so far? Well,
the classic counter strategy is to have an IS-3 sitting up into the B7, B8 area. But then again, you know, that's countered by the double IS-3s in the middle. But you can see immediately off the bat that ASAP aren't trying that same tactic twice. IS-3's going down south,
like
which is the normal IS-3 route on this map. Obviously, ASAP is now waiting for the IS-3 of Insane to catch up. And Penta being a little bit more cautious. They got the T-37 up there. Good read that ASAP aren't going for the same thing twice. Instead, you know, committing a lot along that 0 line.
And I want to see where they put these IS-3s now. They're the big factor to me because it almost seems like they're the linchpin to the rest of this. But a massive stack across that K kind of 0 line in that sort of area. You're seeing 3 tanks, the T-54s gathering position, which we know can work so powerfully against that southern cap. But that doesn't seem to be the plan. And the T-37 in the north is going to be overwhelmed. But what is the crossfire like here? Because we're seeing this being quite imperative. Yeah, you can see the IS-3 bouncing now 2 shells. Dawn now having to get out of there. Now, I think this is bad news for these 2 IS-3s. But the T-37 of Fluky has been spotted, and it has caused ASAP now to push up north. I want to see if this works out. Look at this. The Dead Zone and New Multi Show keeping eyes on. The IS-3s will not have such a free time now. But can they focus the fire? Can they get them out of the picture quick enough? Because Fluky has no chance in hell. He's got 2 tanks hot on his heels. The T-54 and the 1390 just evaporate him. And now Insane back in the same spot. And the IS-3s being the linchpin, they're holding on again. 18 seconds though. Surely Penta will be able to wipe them off of the board. And this is a much better play. Complete focus, complete disregard of the IS-3s. And look at them powering through. Raven, Message heading straight in. The cap is still on though. This is going to be close. Dawn is still alive, but he cannot make a shot, so they're not bothering. Raging Potato will deal with him now, but now with 8 seconds left, the fire has to be in the right place at the right time for ASAP, but they're starting to dwindle. The strategy wasn't going to work twice. They tried to adapt, but the sheer firepower and individual play from Penta seems to be on point. This is good news for Penta right now. Killer Pit heading into the middle. That's the next plan. Penta doesn't need to rush this. They just need to get the IS-3s in positions. Dead Zone can take down Valeria, no problems at all. But it all just depends on Killer Pit right now. Cap's still underway, in my opinion. A mistake from ASAP. I think they should retreat, try for a different angle, because clearly they are now on the back foot. They definitely are. And Insane taking a lot of shells there is certainly not going to help. The IS-3 does get picked up by Killer Pit. And Penta, they saw what the end game was here for ASAP. They saw that the IS-3s were going to be the holding force for ASAP, and they took them out. And now it's a matter of cleaning up the rest. The Dead Zone can take his time here. The others are folding into position, clearing out the cap. Vale and Villiers are the last two standing, and they will be dealt with here swiftly. But still, ASAP can be proud of this. They've achieved something that not many teams have done yet, showing real consistency on the attacking side. But Villiers, last man standing, does make a little bit of a go of it. Already hitting 2k damage with 3 kills to boot, but it doesn't matter. Penta bring this one back at 1-1. And let's kind of talk through the variation there, because that started off kind of to a similar effect, but with slight variations. The IS-3s went further south, went to a kind of different spot, but then Penta undid them. How did that kind of go down?
Well, first of all, ASAP predicted that Penta would counter that middle area, so they got the IS-3s into the same position, but they just took them in a longer route, which caused the whole of ASAP just to wait around that northern cap before the push came in. Then Dawn and CFAS was like, wait a minute, where are Penta? And they just pushed across, which is fine right now. The Dead Zone and New Multi-Show peek around. They realize that's probably not a good idea considering the whole of ASAP's up north and they could get taken down very quickly. And then you can see the retraction immediately by the ASAP's T-54s. They're pushing onto those two IS-3s, which are unsupported because ASAP didn't push up north hard enough. And the 250-100 of Penta have Valeria and Agoni kind of singled out and held down. And also just the speed and the aggression from the T-54s is very hard to stop and deal with. So this is already game over once the first IS-3 falls.
Very much so, and you guys at home have been getting involved, thank you. And once again, Daki in chat, being the backseat gamer that he is, telling us how it could have worked out better if only they changed these small things. Maybe if they just, you know...
Nothing small about Daki. Oh, that was a bit harsh.
And also questionable as well. Strange statement, but congrats, Daki. Anyway, let's think of now what Penta can do on their attack, the next big thing, because they've shown that, okay, they're fast enough to learn on the defense so they won't fall for the same trick twice. But what can they bring on the attack? What were ASAP like on their defending sides?
I think ASAP, I think they're a good team on the defense. I always say ASAP is better in those situations where things are dynamic and quick and a little bit fluid. But the Ruinberg defense is very logical and very easy. It really just depends on what you actually do on the attacking round. As we saw, you know, what kind of adaptations you bring. Because at the end of the day, you always need those heavy tanks on the eastern side. You always play towards that eastern village, have something up north to spot out that northern cap. You know, there's only so much you can do. You know, do you get that zero line like Penta just did then? So you're really only going to be restricted to like the 7 to the 0 line on the defensive side.
It's a big question, and I'm excited to see how this one pans out, because I think it will kind of display where these two teams are at. Because ASAP were able to catch out Penta in that first move, but Penta showed their class by being able to counter into the second. But now it's going to be the same questions asked towards ASAP on their defense. Are they good enough to, 1, stop the initial play, which would be the difference between them and Penta, and 2, will they then be ready and be able to predict the second move coming out? It's like a very complex game of chess with tanks. That'd be kind of cool. They should make like a chess mode.
I wouldn't be surprised if they already made it, to be honest.
At some point, there is a board game possibly coming out. Anyway, we are into this one. It's 1-1. The side switches come in, so ASAP are on the defense. And this is, well, different from Penta?
Yeah, a lot of, well, different from ASAP. I mean, you got Insane, one of the best artillery players so far in the league, playing the M44. Not something we've seen in a long time. I mean, of course, you know, remember back to Season 3, the Lorraine 15551 was a staple on Ruinberg. Haven't seen it since then and haven't seen artillery since then, basically. But let's see how this works out for ASAP. Maybe just going for that cap, you know, constantly trying to reset the cap and expecting Penta to be a little bit slower.
Oh, but Insane's in a horrible predicament now. That's the biggest problem. What can he do here? He's got tanks so far pushed up. He's going to be making these shots. If he can make these count, it would be highly impressive. Dawn is going to try and withstand as there's 3 or 4 tanks there challenging him out straight away. No covering fire yet to be seen. And the cap has indeed been started. Penta have yet to even receive a touch of damage.
An insane shot. That means Penta knows where he is, so they are sitting right behind that building, but the shell does come in. Dawn is doing a very good job of just heading off that damage as a Gorn. He just wants to try and support him now.
But they have to stop this cap. It's still a big factor. 5 seconds left on it. This could be the defining point. 3 seconds. Here we go. Finally, the T-54s get there, but with, a second to spare. They do get Fluky extraordinarily low, but those IS-3s can withstand a hell of a lot. And now we're going to see ASAP finally making this counterplay. They need to get in the action and do the damage, but credit where it's due. It was the IS-3 play from Dawn early. Agorni and now Vale trying to hold back these tanks in that northern side, and the brawl will continue, but Message on the flank around the backside should have a free shot to Agorni, but he expected it, and CFAS will take him down. It wasn't the clean exchange they wanted, and this game is still up in the air.
Wilbur and Numoli Show doing a great job against the two 5100s, Killer Pit and Raging Potato, like making sure those T-54s are being punished for being late.
Oh, they are indeed. But now, can they withstand it? ASAP still have 4 tanks alive. Bearing in mind, CFAS is on 1 HP, which is quite an easy one to deal with for the dead zone. But can they keep this up now? They have to make the damage come through, and I think they are. Panison does take one on the way out, joined by Vilea, but now 2v4. Bearing in mind, Insane is in the M44. It's not looking good.
No, Insane is almost certainly out of this game now, leaving only Valera to do anything here in the T-54, but 1 versus 4, pretty much game over. Ooh, Insane just...
He got close.
Oh, that would have been hilarious if Numerical Show actually lost that engagement. And I think Insane is so annoyed that he just actually just... Oh, no, he didn't. I would have hit that shell, by the way, Insane, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not. Point blank.
Ollie says these things, but no one's been able to ever prove he was actually a good player at any point. You know, there's just like 2 pictures.
I'm so old, everyone's dead.
They're all gone now. They're all gone. So, if you say it enough, people might believe it, and well, believe this. Penta just picked it up with a very decisive play on their attacking side. Now, was that a reaction to the artillery in play? Was that just them going, screw this, let's just go aggressive and get in their faces, put that kind of BM, not BM style, but, you know, we are confident, we don't need to be scared of you play? Or how did that really work out for them? Because it seemed that it really did spiral as soon as Penta put their pieces into place.
Well, I think the artillery actually was in favor for ASAP there, because it had that position where you could just shoot straight down the line and actually reset the tanks there. But then I think the good play was the fact that you know, they were super aggressive. You know, wasn't this what tornadoed against Energy in the previous round? Just go super aggressive up there, take down Dawn eventually, even though it took a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Pressure on in the cap, and really Insane can't do much in that situation. Then you see the T-54s have to retract all the way around, which means that they can't support Dawn or Insane and get the reset which was necessary. So I think this northern cap innovation, the way the meta's changed on Ruinberg is working quite well.
Well, it seems that everyone's kind of worked out the more southern cap. They're like, well, we know this one by now. We know exactly the positions to use. So teams, switch it up, try it out, something new, but everyone's catching up here again. And it got fairly close towards the end, but with Insane being one of the tanks alive, it did seem like a bit of a stretch. They could turn it. But what can now ASAP do? Let's say it's round 2 coming up for them on the defense. What do they need to change going into this? Was there something very clear that they can change, or is it just a matter of being more aware, or how can they actually adapt?
Well, I don't think we're having all the T-54s heading all the way around south and getting the reset from behind. I mean, that's the easy way of doing it. I think the better way of doing it would have been to have the T-54 or you know, have one tank on the Crescent Moon Circle and have another T-54 with the two 5100s, push in, take down the MX-3090s that are pushing into that northern village area, and then getting the reset like that, having one guy just making sure he's hitting that shell, because I think those T-54s being out of the game for so long allowed Penta just to push forwards, deal with Cephas and IS-3, and yeah, I think that was already game over by that point. So yeah, I think ASAP just needs to be a little bit more straightforward, use brute force a little bit more to get the defensive rounds in the bag.
Yeah, it's going to be a factor. We're not just getting, just waiting for the teams to get themselves ready here. And guys in chat, you've been letting your thoughts be known. Daki is very pleased with what you said about him, by the way. He's very happy. Apparently that's what she said. I don't know who she is, but she said it. But no, we all love Daki at some point. He had a wonderful hat at one point. Yeah. So we all, shout out to the hat. We miss it. Anyway, teams will be taking their time to get ready for this final round. Of course, it means a hell of a lot, because going into the difference a 2-2 and a 3-1 feels so different, even though it's so close. The 3-1 scoreline can just be so distinctively drastic towards one team's favour that it can swing the rest of the game. But ASAP have known that they can fight back, so hopefully they can bring a little fight to this one. And anyway, where are your predictions on this final round?
I like that way. I like the way Penta played that attacking round. But then again, we saw in the previous matchup, Synergy Tornado, that the same thing happened and the same strategy happened and the same result happened. So it's going to be hard for Penta to actually commit for the same thing twice and to make it work. So clearly they aren't. This is what I like, though. I like this middle control. I like this T54 stack. Put it into the cap, get control of that middle area, get control of that road heading towards the eastern cap, and just put so much pressure onto ASAP that you don't allow them to get positions. And Panettiere getting caught out very early makes it really tricky now for ASAP.
Yeah, Valea's all out on his own. He's just going to get melted. Fluky's going on to claim Panettiere, but that was a very swift pickup, and Penta's going crazily aggressive here. They're actually committing to this. And is this an error? Is this overconfidence?
Yeah, that was a way much of aggression, which didn't work out very well for them. But yeah, Messig shouldn't have gone straight through. I think it could have taken down the T54 anyway, without actually having to do that. So a bit over-aggressive by Penta, but they're still in this game quite nicely. Yeah,
I'm surprised they're actually able to stay in this game. Normally, if you make an error like that or a bit of a overstatement, you'll be punished. But no, ASAP let them get back into this one, and now the vast majority of the forces are clustered towards that eastern side. Of course, Insane is off towards the northeast, and we do have Valea down towards the south, but to cross up here is going to be pretty easy. You can see the dead zone's in quite an open position, but he's still able to do some work, but he's burning up alive, and actually the dead zone might just go down off the back of this. He is, oh my word, he does go down eventually, but that was down to the last wire. But ASAP are just dwindling in HP. Look how low they are.
Yeah, they are starting to really struggle, but they still have good positions towards the right side, and their main crux right now is Valalair in the T54, and Raven's going to have to go 1 versus 1 against him. He should win on out, considering the hit points advantage, as ASAP do start to dwindle as Vale falls in the 5100.
Yeah, Gorney's still alive. He's got 800 HP, but he's just kind of being negated from the fight completely. They're ignoring him, and Raven going to take on Valea. Valea's on the run, but Raven should have the shell available just before him. He doesn't make the shot. He doesn't land it, which is an error. Valea, great driving on the go and showing his player prowess here in this T54.
Yeah, game over for ASAP. Only Gorney and Insane remain, and again, you know, exploiting the fact that ASAP is using the artillery and not 2 tier 7s or 1 tier 6. Just makes Penta go aggressive, and maybe that's more of a mental thing. You know, when you see an artillery, you go aggressive, and you maybe should have done that in your other games, which the other team does big artillery, and it happens to work out for you, but you don't because of their lineup. So nice work there by Penta. Yeah,
and I honestly think a more organized team would have punished Penta a lot more for that over-aggression. When they kind of stepped over a little bit, when I think it was ASAP pushing down towards the south, obviously they caught out one of the tanks, Fluky got the kill on it, but other teams would have punished that so much more by this point. So I'm surprised that Penta were able to recover, as they were equal on HP and had very little positional advantage.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, they took down that T54 at the beginning. Yes, Message got taken pretty low, but then Valalea got damaged, and the fact that the whole of ASAP just dealt with Messig meant the rest of Penta, you can see these two IFCs, Rage Potato and Killer Pit, did such a fantastic job. They could push forwards, and this is the exact position you want to be in an I3. You can either just use the front of your tank, or you can side scrape here against the building like Raging Potato is. Killer Pit can go hold down. He's only got to worry about the artillery. Raven knows that he has to actually go against Valalea. So, yeah, Messig was too aggressive, but, you know, he's from Drooling Leprechauns. You can't blame him.
Yeah, that's all I know.
But the thing is, they got that. They got the positions, and it worked so well for them. Great work by Penta. 2 attacking rounds. I hate it. You know, I say the meta's changing for the defensive side, and then Penta comes out and just proves us wrong.
And then you've also got to take into account, are these teams equal on ability at the moment? And you'd argue after that one, I'd say ASAP is slightly behind.
Yeah.
They've shown that they can play. That first round was very indicative of a team with a lot of potential. However, not being able to follow this up or, you know, make any impact on their kind of following rounds just kind of shows a little bit of a negative side. But still, we have map 2 coming up, Himmelsdorf.
Yeah.
Team-wise, what can ASAP do here?
Well, I don't think we've actually seen Penta and Himmelsdorf yet, so we haven't seen exactly what they can bring on this map, and that's always a nice thing to see. It's like, oh, we haven't seen a team do X, Y, and Z, so they could bring out something completely different, like we saw, for instance, Sting do on Lakeville against Strink. So always really interested to see what a team that hasn't played a map can do. In my opinion, Penta now on a roll. They seem to got their kind of issues fixed.
Yep.
Need to make sure they pick up those defensive rounds because that's the hardest part of Himmelsdorf. That's where you earn your money.
Well, we're going to find out very soon, guys. We're going to go to a very quick break, but when we're back, we'll find out if really PENTA can keep that momentum going forward in Map 2. Welcome back to the WGL EU. We are into game 2 and map 2. Currently set a 3-1 scoreline in favor to the one and only Penta over ASAP. It started off looking good for ASAP and then it kind of spiraled down a little bit. But what do we make of the play so far, and how is that going to apply to map 2, Himmelsdorf?
I think Penta showed some real flair on the attacking side in Ruinberg. I mean, we don't see that many wins on the attacking side in Ruinberg. It's only when you really adjust and adapt and try something new, like that Northern play was fantastic. I think ASAP got caught out a little bit in that second round. Kind of strange that they played the double IS3 again, a little bit predictable. And, well, we haven't seen Penta on Himmelsdorf, so it could be something completely new. I think, of course, they've been watching the games and they'll take something out of the playbook from the other teams, but they have that advantage of, okay, ASAP's played 4 games against Rocks, 1-2, lost 2, 1 on attack, 1 on defense. So they know what kind of ASAP's going to bring. They saw that they brought the similar lineups, similar tactics on Ruinberg, so maybe they're going to do the same on Himmelsdorf.
Oh, that could be a real defining point. And you guys at home have been getting involved. Happy Porcupine saying ASAP should have been able to finish that one off. A lack of communication, lack of skill, or lack of courage. I don't know. I think in answer to that, I don't think it's really a question, but we'll answer it regardless because, you know, we don't have Melly here to shout at us. But I don't think it was a lack of courage. I think it was just a lack of understanding how to deal with that situation. They are still quite a new team in ways. They do have some experienced players, but they don't have that, okay, well, this is our knee-jerk reaction. They don't quite have that intuition yet, in my eyes, to be able to punish some of the teams for maybe overstepping or overextending yet, whereas if you looked at Virtus Pro, your Team Supremes, they'd be there instantly. However, we are ready for this one. The teams are straight into game. No messing around. These guys want to keep you in the action. Of course, if you want your tweets read out, use that hashtag WGLEU. And we can now start looking at this one. On the attack, it will be ASAP. And on the very aggressive defense is Penta.
Maybe like a bit of a TCM style, pushing straight down the south. Actually, Penta played the same style on the defensive side last time, which kind of gives them an edge in many respects, you know. If you do, even in the old format, do a tactic, and it kind of works on the new format even better, then, you know, you've got that edge over other teams. But playing very aggressive with the double 50-100s, of course, if they can get them in position, they might just be able to catch out ASAP, who at the moment are walking into that trap as Killer Pit, who's been a bit of a beast today. Just makes a nice shot against who was my standout player for this match at Villalea.
He's been having some good individual moments, but it doesn't seem to work at the same time as the rest of the team, which seems to be the error. It's like he can stand out and he can deal with, you know, the 1-on-3s that sometimes he's put in, but I haven't really seen him find that comfort just yet, to find that real, like, okay, when I make the damage, it really supplements my team, but I've not quite seen that just yet. And this is a very polarizing Himmelsdorf. We haven't seen this sort of southern play from the defending side in quite some time.
But you got Penta Sports logic here. You've got the 8-line control, which Penta has. You got the 50, the AMX, the 50 AMX 50-100. No,
that'd be a weird tank.
The IS3, 2 tanks put on top of each other. No, but you got the IS3 defending the 8-line, so they got the information there straight away. You got Raging Potato ready to deal with the Northern Cap. Now you'll see the retraction from Penta immediately, but I'd be surprised one of those 50-100 doesn't end up behind one of the players from ASAP. And really is fluky. What is he going to do in that 12T? Is he going to, you know, try and go 1v1 against Dawn, which would be a pretty hard and tall ask of him? Obviously, the T-37 is a brilliant 1v1 brawler, but clearly Penta knows now ASAP is going for that Northern Cap, and they have to try and deal with this because it's a very aggressive and firm movement from ASAP.
Yeah, ASAP looking like they want to actually really get in here as much as possible, exploit and just punish Penta for pushing so far down towards the south. But as you can see, there's been a couple of tanks left at the back. Raging Potato will be trying to keep a hold of this. Agorni's going to be sent off. He's going to be sent back. And actually, Raging Potato stayed alive quite some time. Credit to the IS-3 for that positioning and what it can really excel in. But still, the cap will be started. And now it's about that retake. Message and Killer Pit are be working their way down the south. You said that maybe one of those 50-100s would be behind people. And I think we might be seeing that come into fruition.
Yeah, the double 50-100 stack is really what you want from that tank. Fluky as well. He hasn't been spotted, but he spotted Dawn there in the T-37. Obviously one of the French players in this league. So Killer Pit, Messick, I don't know. I'll see how this one works out. Fluky actually going to be, I believe, the catalyst now for Penta to go forwards. Spots out Villalea, and Penta just seemed to be kind of just putting a net around ASAP. They got them on the hill, and of course, you know, when you're at the bottom of the hill, there's just no way you're going up to the top of it, especially with these 40, 50, 60-ton beasts. It just takes too long, and you're just going to get caught out from behind. Now, I think you'll see Penta make the occasional peak and see if they can try and, you know, do enough damage that ASAP really doesn't have any options going forwards.
And I want to see if ASAP can actually find an overmatch somewhere, or find somewhere they can push in towards. Same with Penta as well, though. It's can they kind of manufacture those overmatches where they can find, you know, maybe an IS-3 out its own, or find a vulnerable angle. And both teams are looking for that at the moment. And great old sustained damage from Dawn. It's not massive amounts, but it's enough to be a nuisance towards Killer Pit and Message. And Fluky can't really do much about it either. So good little positioning from Dawn.
Great positioning from Dawn. He's, you know, Killer Pit on basically 30% HP. It's allowed Pana Searing and Insane to go around, but they don't realize Dead Zone's in the middle.
Oh, Dead Zone does come in towards the tracks there. Pana Searing will go backwards, but Insane does bear the brunt. Message, though, takes a little too much, and now you're seeing ASAP having to fold into this. They're going to retract back. They're going to try and bolster their numbers. That sustain from Dawn is being the biggest nuisance in the world. Look at it. Killer Pit is down so low. These two are down to nothing from great work coming from such a small tank. T-37 doing what its weight in gold at the moment. CFAS now can get into the action. He'll go for the exchange, he gets it, but look at this, Killer Pit now in a good position. The crossfire is starting to pay off in dividend towards Penta. They kept those 3 tanks in a great position, but can they now do the damage to back it up? Raging Potato on the flank as well. These two teams rotating around each other, trying to find the advantage. Raven and Raging Potato just staying out, trying to buy time. Agorni gets absolutely decimated by Raven, and now Vale and Valea are the last two in this sort of spot. Dawn is way off towards the hill, and I don't know if he can now help anymore.
That was a masterclass in just individual tank play and also team play. Dealing with that aggression from ASAP wasn't easy at all, but Raven now has to be careful as Vale in that 5100 uses his last shell well, takes him out, and that's brought ASAP back into this.
Yeah, Vale's got to be careful. He's on reload now for 35 seconds still. Valea's going out on his own. I'm not sure if this is the best of ideas. The Dead Zone can try and support Numocho until he has shells available. 5 more seconds until Numocho is back in the action. He doesn't need it. The Dead Zone 1v1s Valea, and that was just needless aggression almost. I guess trying to buy time for Vale maybe, but that should not have happened.
He wanted to kill Numocho, which is fair enough, but Numocho is way too quick. He's way too agile, and he's just going to retreat back. I mean, if Numocho can do anything, it's retreat back. And it's basically given Penta a great position now. They're 500 hit points above, 1 tank above. Dawn's on the hill on his own. And Vale is very close to Raging Potato. I mean, Vale may be able to take down Raging Potato, but as soon as he shoots, it's going to be a one-shot material now.
383 damage coming out from Raging Potato as well. Vale is down very low here. Numocho might even be in a position to assist if Vale does commit towards this. They're both spotted, so I'm surprised Vale's even toying with the idea. And now Dawn trying to do what he can, and he's been wondrous. 1.8k damage. And look at the accuracy as well. 25 shots made, 22 of those are hits.
Insane.
That is brilliant play, great positioning. And okay, they didn't get the game in the end. But then if you doubled what he did almost, or take that into account, there'd be over 2k HP left with Penta, and this would be a different game. So Dawn showing you the masterclass in how to use that T-37. And again, look at this. 2k damage. He's 2.1. And sure, he may not be able to take down the Dead Zone in this sort of position.
He'll have a hard time hitting anything.
2.2k.
But he's done so well. That is just positioning truly coming through, and an individual trying to make so much of a difference. But sadly, Penta are having none of it.
It's almost gone full circle, you know. In 742, when you had a really good tier 1 player, you could win the game via that. And now in 754, you have a position where if you could get that tier 6 in the right place at the right time, it's just ridiculously good.
It's really impressive.
We saw it from Streko. Against Synergy, you know, just doing so much damage on the hill, constantly pestering, doing so much work there. Then we just saw Dawn take it to another level and hitting almost 2.3k damage. And
unreal. He
basically killed Killer Pit, basically on his own. I think Penta, I could see what they wanted to do with Fluky, but I think they should have just dealt with Dawn with Fluky on the hill. I mean, it was unnecessary to send Fluky to maybe distract Valea in the IS-3. I'm not sure. But
I guess it's one of those things at the start of it when it's hitting you for, let's say, 100 damage each time. Let's just say, or around that marker. It's, you know, it doesn't kind of go above that by a massive margin. You kind of try and ignore it. You kind of just think, all right, that's the least of our worries right now. But then you think he had Message to shoot at, he had Killer Pit there to aim at, Fluky wasn't far, and he was just constantly doing this work. This was the initial move. But at this point, no one's even thinking about Dawn. He's been spotted the whole time as well. Yeah,
they know he's there. I think Fluky's going up the hill. I mean, Fluky is not going to be too aggressive. He's just going to keep Dawn at bay. But instead he goes for Lelea, which is kind of like that strategy where Penta's thinking, okay, we want to put the bag around ASAP. We want to strangle them. We want to deprive them of oxygen, not let them get that 8 line, which is fair enough because they don't want Killer Pit and Messig to be to be kind of caught out on their own and be vulnerable from the 8-line push. But at the same time, you know,
just look at this,
Dawn
though.
just doing so much work. But here's the thing. ASAP be aggressive. ASAP were aggressive, but they did it wrong. And despite Dawn doing all this work in the middle, Penta immediately reacting to the dead zone getting spotted, Messick getting the spot on Panasirian. Penta Sports get the middle control with their AMX 5100s, and, you know, ASAP just walked straight into it.
They really didn't. Maybe a slight lack of experience, kind of understanding how the other team might respond to this, and then the knock-on effect of it. Okay, well, if we commit here, they may now do this, and kind of understanding the bigger picture. But so far, I think Dawn 1 deserves a medal for what he did. That was pretty impressive. You know, it doesn't matter necessarily what tier tank you're in. You can still do just a fine job, even if it's not in damage like we saw in that game. But looking going forward, I think we've just seen that ASAP have a good selection of plays. However, they don't have the depth of bag of tricks that Penta can go to. Penta just seem to have a little more to work with, a little bit better overall. But once again, we are back into this Penta on the defense, ASAP on the attack. But this time, Penta's on match point. And
Penta sending the T-37 straight up north, maybe just to deal with Dawn. But he gets spotted out immediately there by Dawn, and Fluky has to be careful. But it's good news, actually, because Fluky, you can be on the hill by the time that the 5100s are just cresting the hill, so you can spot out, okay, maybe Penta's there, maybe ASAP's there, okay, they're going to commit a 5100 onto a position which could be risky for them. But those two 5100s are now retracting off the hill. Good move by ASAP. It shows that they are learning. They know that the T-37 can really cause them some pain and some, some good information for Penta. Now, ASAP immediately retracting back, does get spotted by Raging Potato. So now Penta's going to be in, let's defend the 8-line. Let's defend the 1 to 3 line. Yep. And let's keep spots on the 8-line with that T-37. They're
in a pretty decent position here, and Tifa's actually taking the opening shot there and does receive a lot of damage off the back, down to 1105 HP to begin with. But ASAP are trying to gain some positions. A Raging Potato, it seems like an inevitability when you're in this kind of spot. You're as good as you can kind of achieve while you're here, because eventually 2 or 3 tanks will probably outnumber you. However, Numolcho's in the spot we saw played earlier, so these two are really nice complementing each other on that one-line play, and I'd rather have Numolcho in that position, if I'm honest. He's a great standout player on his own. Yeah, for sure, and you can see Agorni and Valelea heading forwards. It's a bit of a strange position. I mean, surely you want like a 5100 up and towards Agorni's position, so you can just burst down Raging Potato with an IS-3. But instead now you've got a position where ASAP's going to have to continually peak. Raging Potato's going to get the better of him. New multi-show and support as well. So this is not going too swimmingly now for ASAP, but still, it still can go fine. I mean, one little mistake by Penta and it'll be game over for them. Now, Penta should just hold their ground. They're on the defensive side, don't have to worry. Fluky, though, and Dawn, this could be an interesting 1 versus 1. And Dawn is unspotted thus far, so he should have the drop on towards Fluky, and I'm very impressed with Dawn so far. Fluky has been probably a little bit more of a veteran player. Yep. So it's going to be an interesting little 1v1 skirmish between these two. I'd back Dawn to this point, but we've not seen him in a 1-to-1. It's been him kind of with the overview and the overmatch, and let's see what Dawn can do. He's got to make this one count. The next shell is massive here. He's got to land it. He does. So the T-37 play will be in Dawn's favor, and that might just spur on the rest of ASAP to try and make a play. The thing is, he got the first shell against Fluky, so there's really not much he could have done in that situation. But Penta just going straight into CFAS and insane. Yeah, they're going to just try and make a counterplay. Dawn's in a great spot, though. He's once again back into position. He loves this little spot, but it doesn't matter. ASAP are going to start really feeling the brunt of this. Insane is back into the corner. He's going to be just taken down in one swift move. Numolcho is doing what he loves. Just this little bit of individual play, this individual brilliance. But look at the fire. He's down to nothing. Vale will take him down. 4 players now stand for Penta against the 4 of ASAP. It's not over yet. They can still turn this. And over on that one line, I think it's a 2v1 going on at the moment. I think it's Raging Potato who's absolutely surrounded, but he's still trying to stand tall. A message bails him out of trouble. But oh my word. Oh, that is devastating. Raging Potato, oh my god, the 15 damage could have defined that. But he does get the shell. That low roll is going to be haunting them for some time. And now Vale and Dawn, last 2 standing. Now, don't get me wrong, Dawn last time was able to get 2k damage. This time, I don't think he's quite in a position to do so.
No, I think this is game over, and Vale getting set on fire just makes it even worse for ASAP, the cruelty of it all.
The cruelty.
And Dawn at 1.5k, I mean, the guy is an absolute beast in the T-37, penetrating everything. And Himmelsdorf trying to reverse out of Dawn's fireline and into the back of Velalair in the 5100.
You choose the 5100 over the T-37.
Himmelsdorf is like, screw Dawn.
I don't want to die to this.
Yeah, I'm going to die to the 5100. Keep some pride with me there. But it's so close here. You can see Raging Potato, Raven, and the Dead Zone all on the kind of
I want to see him pull this off.
On the 25%, the 25% roll, you get above or below the average damage. So 390, you can do 488 or 320 on the BL9. And yeah, Raging Potato does eventually dispatch of the beast that is Dawn.
And Penta win the game. It's as simple as that. 5-1 is the end scoreline. ASAP got close a couple of times.
That was ridiculously quick.
That was a very quick game. I don't think we'd got like game one out of the way of the previous matchup in comparison to this, but I think Penta do need to kind of make an impression, and I guess this kind of counts towards one coming out. I know ASAP isn't the biggest opponent, but you know, they showed a good game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be saying, "Oh, it's ASAP." You know, they're a new team. They don't have so much experience. But consider this, guys. First of all, ASAP did well in the last 2 rounds against Rox and against Kazna Crew. Showed some really good games. Second of all, Penta won 2 attacking rounds on Ruinberg, which requires some innovation, some tactics, some thinking, and some good individual player skill, which was great. I think Penta just held on well on that defensive side.
Correct.
Nothing too outrageous here. You can see the 1 versus 1 against Dawn. But, you know, Fluky just gets the timing wrong. He reverses to try and get into the middle to shoot those tanks which are heading across. Dawn's already there, gets the first shell. As long as Dawn doesn't bounce, it's game over for Fluky.
And I don't want to say Dawn's the MVP, but he kind of was in that last map. Prior to that, you could pick anyone you want, but those last 2 rounds on Himmelsdorf, hitting over 2k in that tank is unreal. And outside of that, we didn't see anyone really shining for ASAP.
Look at that, 400,
low roll.
450 damage against Lelaire, who's on 45. He just needs a slightly decent roll. He needs to get like 420, 410, which is... Yeah, Raging Potato 1 versus 1, he's a beast. That's the thing about the IS3, you know. You don't just pick it because it's got more armor, more hit points. You pick it because if you hit the upper echelons of that that 25% damage, plus minus, you can hit almost 500 damage, and that makes a massive difference. You know, if you can get that 1 shell against a tank that's just flying between 2 buildings, you hit them for 500 damage almost.
Massive impact.
Huge impact.
Well, it was a very impactful Playday going out for Penta. Those guys have secured themselves a nice clean win. We saw a little bit of potential, however, coming out from ASAP, showing that they can compete with some of the bigger teams. They can show us some ingenious tactics. And I think we can all agree, even though, let's say, ASAP are towards the bottom side of the table, in comparison to the last few seasons, the very, let's say, worst, essentially the last place team against the highest, the difference is absolutely minimal in comparison to what we used to see. This is such a different season. I think teams are really starting to embrace the new game mode. Yeah,
1-1, 3-3, 3-3, 5-5. So I mean, one win there could put ASAP into 8th place.
But just look at even from, let's look towards the higher echelons, ignoring Supreme, you've got Kazna down to Tornado Rocks, Wusa and Virtus Pro so close to each other in points. It's unbelievable. One game can change almost the entirety of how this season is looking so far, and that is how close these teams are getting. The amount of times it's gone to a 5-4 result, the amount of times we're seeing, you know, Giants fall, Virtus Pro losing an online game. That doesn't happen in most seasons. So I think we are starting to get a really high caliber class of players coming out from the EU region and finally kind of showing off what the EU has. And it took some seasons, but I think we're certainly catching up there now. And it's not just going to be the forerunners. We have a good
But who's going to beat Supreme, though? Come on. Like, that's going to be hard. I mean...
hey, look, if Synergy
they've looked impregnable, though. They've looked impregnable. Like, no one's...
No one's gone close yet.
People have tried, people have failed. That's all I can say about Supreme right now.
I want someone to... Okay, so you know what? As Synergy, anti-strat Virtus Pro, I want Virtus Pro to anti-strat Supreme.
Yeah, but the thing is, Supreme has no weak links. Ron is questionable in an IS3 or a 5100. He's not the.
You just used to love him under GG played. You
I love
and Denova. You used to love these guys under any name. You're like biased as hell. You're like, they're gonna be great in the offlines. They're gonna win it. Don't worry, guys.
I don't know about the offlines. GG play plus school bus and offlines is a questionable culmination.
It was.
Yeah, I think Supreme is looking. It's good looking hard. It's looking like the people to beat right now.
They are. They are the ones that people will be aiming for. And I want to see another team just go out for them. Like spend, let's say, a week. Let's say they know the game's coming up in like a week or two's time.
No
Just
summer,
sit there.
no barbecues.
Yeah, no going out. No seeing your friends or your family. No. You are going to be anti-straying with your little whiteboard out, marking away, being keen. I want to see that. I want like a random team. I want ASAP to turn up and do that. I want someone just to go, screw this. We want to win this game. Because at the end of it, sure, player skill will always be a huge factor, and my god, did Team Supreme have that by the droves. But if Synergy can beat Virtus Pro, someone can work out Team Supreme. I hope so, at least, anyway. There's still one more game to go today, and it's not including any of the teams we mentioned. We just went off on a rant because we like water tanks. You guys at home, use the hashtag WGLAU if you want to speak to us as well and have a little chat. I love reading what you've got embraced with so far and how many of you are actually doing it. And it does make me happy. Dave Tomley is ever present, never leaves us. I'm actually sure he's in the studio somewhere. We haven't spotted him yet. There's many a doors and many a basements. Production says he's back there, so don't worry, we know you're there, Dave. And everyone else, keep it coming. We love hearing from you. So, guys, we're going to be back after a very short break with Wusa up against Strunk. And Wusa desperately need to make a big showing here. They're a team that did make a good impression last season. Now they need to do the same. Very similar to Penta in some degree, but roster changes are roster changes, and people change. So, guys, we'll be back as soon as the teams are ready.